Hello everybody, welcome to day 10, part 3. I'm here with Jordan today. As promised, we'll talk a little bit about these water-soluble vitamins, specifically all the B vitamins. Not all of them, but many of them. And vitamin C is also water-soluble. I talked about that yesterday. That's enough of vitamin C, unless you wanted to add anything about vitamin C. We talked a little bit about vitamin C and flavonoids and increasing the half-life. Why don't you tell them what you told me?
So increasing the half-life of vitamin C, if you want to keep it in your body longer. Other dietary antioxidants can increase the half-life of vitamin C, and this is just because it prevents it from being broken down and being used up as quickly. It protects the vitamin C from oxidation. You commonly find vitamin C with flavonoids in lots of foods, especially citrus fruits. And what a lot of research has shown is that these flavonoids can actually increase the half-life of vitamin C by that same mechanism, by being antioxidants and by preventing the vitamin C from being destroyed. On top of that, some of these flavonoids actually seem to have antiviral effects in of themselves, so that might contribute to the antiviral efficacy of taking vitamin C that has the flavonoids in it if you're taking it as a supplement or getting it from the citrus fruits instead of just as isolated vitamin C.
So yesterday I talked a little bit about vitamin C and the research on the intravenous vitamin C. And I just want to make sure that we're on the same page here, that you agree that it's impossible to take enough oral vitamin C in order to have the effects that the intravenous vitamin C is having on this virus. In fact, it's magnitudes of order higher, right? The blood concentration of ascorbic acid in the blood. So I want you to understand, again, if you try to take, for some people, you can get away with 10,000 grams of vitamin C without any problems. If you take it, let's just say every hour, 1,000 grams, a lot of you won't have an issue. Some of you,
1,000 milligrams, right?
1,000 milligrams. I'm sorry, I said 1,000 grams. 1,000 milligrams. Yeah, don't take
1,000
grams. 1,000 milligrams, which would be 1 gram every hour. Many of you won't have symptoms. If you do have symptoms, it would be loose stool. That is it's bowel tolerance. That is your body getting rid of that vitamin C via urine and your bowel movements. So your body literally won't allow that type of blood concentration, and therefore you will not get the same antiviral properties of vitamin C that intravenous vitamin C will. This is tantamount to the zinc conversation that we had about the concentrations of zinc in the intracellular space, how that acts as an antiviral. Taking more zinc is not the answer because this medication is allowing the escort of zinc into the cell. You can't do it without this medication.
Yeah, there's only so many transporters you have available to get stuff out of your intestines into your bloodstream. So saturating those transporters with vitamin C is as good as it's going to get without intravenous injection. Linus Pauling was famous for taking tons of vitamin C. I think he was taking something like 100 grams a day, like a crazy amount.
So I mentioned Linus Pauling yesterday and encourage people to look into this because Linus Pauling, like I said yesterday, he still influences many medical doctors today. There's a Linus Pauling Institute, and you can look into his research and what he's found and his theories and the efficacy of many of the things that he's found. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't take vitamin C or that you shouldn't experiment with high dose vitamin C. What I am saying is that if you believe that this is the answer to the virus, you're mistaken. Mm-hmm. However, the intravenous form of vitamin C seems to have some promise.
Yep.
And just to one more thing, again, vitamin C is water soluble. You can take a ton of it, right? Zinc, you cannot. All right, two different things here. Zinc, you can supplement with zinc. Don't go high dose. What we talked about yesterday, I think, I maybe Jordan knows, I believe it's like 40-1 of copper to zinc in your body. Like you have way more zinc than copper. If you start increasing that to 100-1 or whatever, the downstream effects is that copper can't do its job, iron can't do its job, and other minerals can't do its job. So understand the water-soluble vitamins you can get away with taking super high dose because you're going to pee out most of it. And so that'll lead us into our vitamin B conversation. So here's what I'm going to say about vitamin B. These are each, B1, B2, B3. You can go on YouTube and listen to 2 hours of just one of these vitamins. And there's a reason for that. Vitamin B3, niacin, you can look at the work of Abram Hoffer, who's done tons of research and niacin's effect on mental health, and his belief similarly on the health benefits of high dose niacin. I am not telling you to start taking high dose niacin. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that there's been tons of research on different vitamins, the different B vitamins, but we're going to keep this real simple, and I hope this gets through. I want to start by saying, remember, we talked about digestion first. So what inhibits not only the fat-soluble vitamins, but many of these B vitamins from getting absorbed into your body? Well, a lot of it's going to has to do with the quality of your stomach acid, things that may be going on in your small intestine, or if you have IBS issues, gut permeability. All of these things and gene polymorphisms could be affecting how well you absorb certain B vitamins. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, specifically B12. You can be eating adequate amounts of B12 from your diet and not be absorbing a lot of it. This one specifically is very, very dependent on the acidity of your stomach. If your stomach's not acidic enough, the B12 is not going to get absorbed. And that's why you can have people that are taking even B12 supplements, B complexes, and not having adequate levels of B12 in their bodies.
So when we're talking about the B, let's just say a B complex vitamin, instead of talking about thiamine and riboflavin and niacin and all these different B vitamins, let's just as a universal whole explain to you some of the symptoms that you'll have from being deficient in these B vitamins. Things that you would never even really think of, right? That could map onto this. But many of these B vitamins, they're really, what's the word I'm looking for? They're cofactors.
Cofactors, yeah, cofactors, coenzymes.
So they assist in other processes. Okay, so think about that. Like, I guess we could make the, you can make the analogy of, like, if you were taking a bunch of toothpicks and you were sticking it into clay, it's the B vitamins that are the clay, right? So it's clay that you're putting toothpicks in, and then you take another lump of clay and another lump of clay. So in order to get the next structure of toothpicks, you need these lumps of clay, right? In order to build the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. These are how cofactors tend to work in the body. It's an oversimplification, but the bottom line is that you need them to make other things. So therefore, what are some things that could affect not having enough B vitamins? Well, you can have things like migraine headaches. You can have things like achy joints, especially carpal tunnel syndrome. That's implicated in B6. You can have things like even nightmares, again, B6. You could have cracked heels, dry cracked heels. You could have lack of energy. You could have, you throw stuff at
neuropathy.
Neuropathy is another big one.
Optic nerve damage from lack of B12.
You could have issues with your skin, cracked lips, issues similarly the skin on your nose, even red eyes. It goes on and on. Oh, even certain histamine responses. So this is a big thing. Why don't you talk a little bit about thiamine and benfotiamine, and what's happening here with alcoholism, and even like super high sugar diets. Thiamine is actually one of the more common, along with B12, if you have stuff going on with your stomach and if you have certain genetic polymorphisms. There are actual conditions that make B12 low in the blood, but thiamine is also very common to be low.
Yeah.
And that maps onto a lot of things. I'll have Jordan talk about it a little bit.
Those are pretty much the only two major deficiencies that we see a lot in the United States. A lot of developing countries have like niacin deficiencies, but we try to supplement flours and foods and stuff like that with the B vitamins so people aren't deficient here. But you still do see these thiamine deficiencies, these B12 deficiencies. And then also, to be clear, being deficient and being not optimal are not the same thing. So you can have non-optimal amounts of these B vitamins as well. But yeah, so thiamine, essentially, like all of the B vitamins, it's implicated in cellular metabolism. So it helps digest, or not digest, but break down proteins, fats, carbohydrates. That's pretty much all of the B vitamins. But on top of that, thiamine also has implications in the growth of nerve cells. It's a cofactor in the growth of nerve cells, and it also protects brain cells from hypoxia. So anytime there's a lack of oxygen in the brain, a lack of oxygenation, thiamine can protect brain cells from death in those cases. So yeah, so that's the other two main functions of thiamine. If you drink a lot of alcohol, the alcohol dehydrogenase enzyme is dependent on thiamine. It needs thiamine to do its job. And because of that, drinking a lot of alcohol, demanding a lot of that enzyme, having a lot of that enzyme produced is going to make you deficient in thiamine over time. And you see these thiamine deficiencies in alcoholics. It's called Korsakoff syndrome, I think. It's called Wernicke-Korsakoff syndrome, I believe. And that can cause neuropathy, it can cause permanent nerve damage, it can cause permanent personality changes. It's like really not a good condition. And part of the reason why it's so severe is because once you have a severe thiamine deficiency, giving people thiamine is usually not enough to help them, because thiamine's, even though it has a high bioavailability, it gets into the bloodstream pretty easily. It doesn't get into the brain easily. It's very hard to pass the blood-brain barrier. So a lot of companies, a lot of pharmaceutical companies, there's a lot of research on this in Japan specifically to find fat-soluble derivatives of thiamine to get the fat-soluble form into the brain more easily. One of those is benphotiamine, one of those is sulbutamine, which is called Acrelion, I think. It's the trade name. It's actually marketed in France. It's marketed in Japan for Korsakoff syndrome and even for chronic fatigue syndrome. So, yeah.
To be clear, the fat-soluble form more easily passes the blood-brain barrier, so it gets into the brain. I believe it's 40 times faster than the water-soluble version. Does that sound about right? I think it's 30 to 40 times faster.
The big problem with the water-soluble form is it gets flushed out too quickly to get into the brain. So if you keep it in the bloodstream longer, you'll just have more circulation of it, and it'll have more opportunities to get into the brain.
Jordan talked about even personality changes. One of the things that we see in people that are thiamine deficient is just lack of motivation. There's lots of things that could be implicated here for lack of motivation, but certainly thiamine deficiency. So super high sugar diets and alcoholism is one of the things that we're looking at here. Now, I also want you to understand, let me just go back. When it comes to absorbing all these B vitamins, I really skipped something very important. So I talked about digestion, stomach acid, your intestines, etc., but also your organs. If you have fatty liver disease, and we talked a lot about insulin, if you're insulin resistant, all these things will affect, believe it or not, how well you metabolize a lot of these vitamins. So it's very important to have healthy organs. It's very important to have a healthy digestive tract, good stomach acid. How do you do that? Well, you go back and you listen to these videos, but you think about how you prepare your food, how you chew your food, getting good quality nutrients into your body, and allow your body to heal by getting rid of the super high sugar, the alcohol, the highly refined carbs. You get the idea, guys. Come on, we've been talking about this. So do you want to talk a little bit about B12 and the types of anemia and what could be going on here, and what B12 actually does, the different forms?
So B12 is one of the B vitamins that in of itself is a coenzyme. So it's not transformed. It's not really used to make anything else really either. What it does is there's a site on an enzyme where the B12 binds and it lets the enzyme do its job. So but that's also very important. And like thiamine, it's implicated in nerve function. Lack of B12 is known as pernicious anemia. Pernicious means deadly, and it is deadly. Neurological damage from B12 deficiency over long periods of time is irreversible, and we know this. You cannot fix the neurological damage that a lack of B12 causes if it's over a long period of time. So that's a very serious deficiency. It's something that you need to address very quickly if you have low B12 concentrations. And like I was saying a little bit before, it has a lot of functions in the eyes, it has functions in the nerves. It's important for nerve function in general.
So you may be wondering, well, how common is vitamin B12 deficiency? Well, 70% of vegans, 70% of vegetarians, 90% of vegans have been shown to have the early symptoms of vitamin B12 deficiency. But like Jordan is saying, and what I'm saying, is that many people are not optimized because of their digestive issues, because of their organ function, because of their general health. So what can we do? Like what foods are going to be super high in B vitamins? I will just tell you right now that like Brewer's yeast, nutritional yeast, if you get like Bragg's nutritional yeast, it's super high in all of the B vitamins. But why don't we talk a little bit more about other sources of B vitamins other than animal sources?
B12 or B vitamins in
All
general?
you just give all, all the different.
I mean, there's lots of them. Some foods are really high in certain B vitamins, like bananas actually are really high in vitamin B6. One banana has about 1/5 of your daily value of B6. Whole grains are very high in these B vitamins. If you don't want to talk about animal sources, I mean, eggs obviously are very high, but those are an animal source. Spirulina, kelp, seaweed. These are all very, very high sources of B vitamins. I mean, those are the main ones off the top of my head. I can't think of them.
So mostly you're going to get them from animal sources, and you can get them, as well from some of these other, like Jordan said, certain whole grains, certain fruits, and particularly bananas.
Leafy greens
Leafy
too.
greens
Yeah,
have B vitamins. And then, well, what about supplementing with B vitamins? Well, you can buy a good complex B vitamin. There's different forms. Some are what are called methylated B vitamins, which are much more expensive. And why don't we talk about that for a minute? Why don't we talk about this MTHFR polymorphism for a moment, and how that is implicated with folate and B12, right? What's going on there?
Yeah. So when you're talking about methylated B vitamins, generally you're talking about, generally in a B complex that's methylated, you're talking about methyl B12 and methylfolate. Those are the main ones that'll be methylated. The other ones will usually be in their active forms in this supplement. So B6 has an active form. Usually you see it as a hydrochloride salt in a lot of supplements, but the phosphate salt is actually the optimized form for the body.
You'll see that as P5P on the bottle.
Yeah, pyroxidine 5-phosphate. The phosphate is the active form. So other than that, the other B vitamins are in a form that are already in the active form. You mean niacin? You might see niacin as nicotinamide riboside in those supplements, which is technically its more active form, but you don't get a lot of the benefits of niacin without taking nicotinic acid, so that's a whole other conversation. But essentially, the reason why you want to be taking these methylated B vitamins is because a lot of people have this mutation in MTHFR that makes them poor methylators. And if you're taking a B vitamin that's not in the form where it's methylated already, it's going to be acting as a methyl group sponge from your body. It's going to have to methylate the folate. It's going to have to methylate the B12. And that is going to use up the methyl stores that you have. And if you're already a poor methylator, that's not good, because now you're using up the methyl stores and you're a poor methylator. So taking it in these methyl forms not only makes it so that it's more bioavailable, you don't have to methylate it, and you're getting these methyl groups into your body if you're a poor methylator. You're also, you're getting it in the active form that the body needs.
Why don't we take one step back and explain just methylation a little bit, and that's sort of like the moving around of carbon atoms here.
Yeah.
But where's it really going, and what's happening here? Why does it even matter?
Methylation is a methyl group in chemistry is a CH3, so carbon 3 hydrogens. Methylation is the process of taking that carbon and 3 hydrogens and attaching it elsewhere in the body. A lot of times you'll see this on enzymes, and you'll see this on DNA. Basically, the methyl group's job is to turn on and off certain genes, and to also activate or deactivate certain enzymes. That's basically what methylation is referring to.
Excellent. Fantastic. Anything else to add here on B vitamins and whatnot? So we covered a lot. Again, just to recap, it matters how you digest these things, meaning it matters that your digestion is really good. It matters that your organ function is good. It matters that you understand what your 23andMe polymorphisms are, because there are certain ones that really map onto things like folate and vitamin B12. if you know that you're getting some of these symptoms with especially nerve type stuff like neuropathy, or if you notice what we were talking about with, or even carpal tunnel, some of these things could be underlying B issues. It's no coincidence that, well, I won't go into it. The point is that in order for you to maximize the absorption of these vitamins, not just fat soluble vitamins, but also these B vitamins, that you have a really, really good operating system here, meaning your body. And if you do that, your brain will be able to perform better, your attention will be better, your mood will be better, and your energy will certainly be better. Anything else?
I want to kind of emphasize something before we stop. When we were talking about the methylated forms of the B vitamins, I think I want to mention some of the consequences of not taking the methylated B vitamins in the active forms. Well, I did mention already some of the consequences of not taking methyl B12 and methylfolate, which is they're going to start absorbing methyl groups from your body. But the other thing is that if you're not taking the active form of vitamin B6 specifically, ironically, that can also cause neuropathy and nerve damage. It can cause damage to the ganglia by not taking this active form of B6. And this is a common side effect that you see in people that are taking a B complex without knowing that they're not taking the active form of B6. You see that they get neuropathy. You see that they start getting, I mean, in severe cases, if you're taking very high doses of B6, it's not in the active form, you might even start getting like double vision and, very severe neurological symptoms. So it's really important to be taking the right forms of these B vitamins, not just taking them because you see a B complex on the shelf somewhere.
Yeah, let's also, since you opened up this can of worms, let's also talk about some of these B vitamins and the optimal time to take them. So since you're talking about B6, probably the best time to take it is at night. You'll often see vitamin B6 packaged along with zinc in it. B6 is extremely helpful to help create GABA, which helps you relax, and therefore taking something like and also normally have a little bit of magnesium in it. So you'll usually see P5P, which is a form of B6 with zinc and magnesium. So we know that these things are extremely helpful to calm the body, and it's best to be taken at night. Things like B12, you probably want to take in the morning. If you're taking a methylated B complex, you don't really have a choice, right? So you're going to take it in the morning. I would recommend taking morning. I actually break my capsules apart. I put it into a big bottle of water. I shake it up and I sip it throughout the day because I like having just a nice steady stream of B vitamins getting into me, and I pee it out and I get it in, I pee it out, and over the course of a few hours, I'm getting those B vitamins in. And then at night, you could go ahead and have the P5P with zinc and magnesium. All those types of supplements tend to have much lower doses of P5P, zinc, and magnesium. So you could experiment with that. Anything else on timing or your thoughts on that?
The other thing about P5P, about vitamin B6 in general, is that there were studies that showed that it actually consistently increases blood levels of melatonin. So if you give people vitamin B6 daily over the course of a few weeks and then you measure their serum levels of melatonin, it's usually increased by several fold. So that's another reason why you probably want to take it at night, because it's increasing that melatonin concentration. There's probably benefit to having higher levels of serum melatonin even during the day, honestly. There's a lot of interesting research on melatonin as an antioxidant, melatonin as a growth hormone regulator. So maybe that has some benefits as well.
And just, again, to be clear, why don't we talk about the relationship of melatonin and serotonin really quickly, because we've alluded to it in other seminars, and just as a reminder, this is a good reminder, if we're talking about taking this supplement at night, P5P with zinc and magnesium, again, you often see those packaged together. If you're going to take P5P, I suggest that you take it with these other forms, and just be mindful that you're not taking 5 different supplements that have zinc in it, that have, right, you know what I'm saying? So melatonin and serotonin, what's the connection? Why is it a big deal?
Melatonin is essentially just it's called acetylation, where you add an acetic acid group onto something. Acetic acid is just basically, that's what vinegar is. So if you put vinegar on a salad, that's acetic acid. If you attach that to a different molecule, it's called an acetyl group. So you do other things as well, but essentially serotonin can be turned into melatonin in a series of steps, including acetylation, and you get this melatonin molecule. Being in darkness disinhibits the conversion of serotonin to melatonin, which means that it stops the stopping of converting serotonin into melatonin.
So just to be clear here, if we're trying to fall asleep, are you suggesting that it should be dark in the room?
Yes.
And we shouldn't be looking at our phone and the TV and having all the lights on and staring into, this really, TVs, iPads, phones are all blue light, which are super, super high concentrated. It's like looking into the sky at high noon. You are not allowing melatonin to do its job in the brain.
Yeah. So disinhibiting is a little bit different than making. So during the daytime, when you're walking around, you have the conversion of serotonin into melatonin is inhibited. It's not being allowed to progress by the body. Once you go into the dark room, that process that's preventing the conversion of serotonin into melatonin is stopped. So then it's allowed for the serotonin to be converted into melatonin.
To be clear, this is all happening through light in the eyes, correct? And on the skin to some degree, okay? So guys, that's just another reminder. If we are getting ready to go to bed, it had better be dark, and it's a very good idea about an hour to 2 hours before you go to bed, turn down the lights in your house and make sure that you fix your screens. There's now, on the newer iPhones, you can actually put it into that dark mode, which will, and just think about it, why would that be there if the science wasn't there, right? Do you think Apple would waste their time putting something like this on a phone if the science wasn't there? It's there and it's abundant, and they understand the consequences that it's having, which is significant. And if you don't believe me, read Matthew Walker's book on sleep. Anything else?
I mean, yeah, like I said, even before we started, like B complex and B vitamins is a huge topic. You could go on and on and on. You could probably have a course on each of them if you really wanted to. So I mean, there's some implications. There's a lot of things to talk about. I think maybe if we're talking about specific niche topics more specifically, we could talk about B vitamins more in depth. Specifically.
If you guys want it, you ask. So if you want to know more about specifically thiamine, riboflavin, niacin, folate, any of them, all right, inositol, any of them, you ask and we'll talk, because they all do have some pretty interesting medicinal properties. Maybe for example, let's talk about inositol for a second and its efficacy with PCOS, right? There seems to be something there.
Insulin sensitivity as well.
Insulin sensitivity. So if you guys want to go a little bit geekier into this stuff, you have to let us know and we will follow up. But other than that, I want you to appreciate the differences between the fat soluble and the water soluble vitamins. If you're going to supplement with B vitamins, I personally use a methylated B complex. Like I told you, it's a serving size of 3 pills. I only use 1. I break it apart. I shake it up in my water bottle. I drink it throughout the day. But I also get B vitamins from plenty of other sources. And anything else to add to that?
No, I think we're good.
All right, guys. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.